Hello, I'm Elizabeth from Houston Harp Music, and today I'm going to show you how to change a string on your harp. We're going to be changing a string in the first octave of the pedal harp, so it's going to be a very thin nylon string. This method of installing a string will work for any of the strings in the top few octaves on a pedal harp, as well as the top octaves or the short strings on any lever harp. So this is nylon. It would work for a very thin gut string as well. So I'm going to be installing a new string on my first octave B. Now you might be wondering why I'm doing that, because obviously the string is not broken. But this string is old. It has not broken and has not needed to be changed in several years. And so over time the string sound gets dull. So I'm going to be putting a new string on in order to brighten it up. So the first thing you're going to do is take off the old string. I'm putting my tuning key on it, making sure that I'm on the correct string. I'm going to watch and see as I turn it if that's the one that's turning, and it is. And I'm just going to loosen it several times around. And at this point, I've turned it enough. I don't have to keep turning it. I can just wind the rest off and then pull it down and out. I want to leave my tuning key such that the tuning pin hole is straight up and down. It's going to be much easier to insert my new string rather than if it's diagonal or horizontal. So my tuning pin hole is vertical. Now I'm just going to take the string and kind of shove it down through the sound hole a little bit, and then reach in with my right hand, grab it, and pull it out. Should be very simple. It's going to look like this. It most likely has a little piece of one of the thicker strings that was holding it in, and we're going to be kind of recreating that and making a new knot in that same way. So I'm going to take my new string, and I've made sure that I have the correct string. It's a nylon string and it's a first octave B, so it is the correct string to go in here. I don't want to just use any string. And go ahead and unwind it, and I'm going to feed it down through the sound hole. It's a lot easier to feed down than to feed up. So feed it on down and pull it through. Don't pull so much that it comes all the way through, because then you'll be right back where you started. So leave a nice little end, but pull enough to work with. Now I'm going to take one of these. It's a piece, just a little cut end from one of these larger strings. Now if you don't have any of these, but you have maybe purchased some extra strings to be used later, you can cut off a little piece on the end because they come much longer than they're needed. Usually we'll use old strings when you're taking them off and cut them up and save them for later, but you can also use the end of a new one. Just don't do it too many times because you don't want to make it too short, but you do have some extra room. So I'm going to take one of those, and I'm going to be using this. Some people call it a spline. You can call it whatever you want. But this is going to be kind of my anchor to make sure that the knot I tie doesn't get pulled up through the sound hole, because the sound hole is fairly large as compared to this very thin string. So I'm going to start by taking the end of my string and folding it down to make a loop, basically. And I want my loop, I like to do mine about 1.5 inches, not more than 2 inches, not less than 1 inch. But I like about 1.5 inches, which is a healthy loop size, so that when I pinch it in the middle, I don't know if you can see that there, I've got almost 1 inch on both sides, both my tail and my loop side. That gives me lots to work with, but not so much that it gets in the way of things. So I've pinched it down so that I have my little loop. Now, I'm holding that in my left hand because I'm going to take my right hand and make another loop. All I did was I took this and I went behind to make another loop, which I'm then going to put over my original loop and pull it. So it looks kind of like that. So I put it over my loop. I pull it not quite all the way tight yet because now it's time for my spline. I'm going to stick that in there. I'm going to basically stick it in with the loop part, and now I'm going to pull it as tight as I can get it. All right, so there we have it. There's our spline. It's about even, the same amount sticking out of both sides. I don't like that my tail is so much longer than my loop, so I'm going to adjust that a little bit by just pulling it through and pinching it so that it's fairly even. It just makes me feel more secure, like it's not going to come undone when I know it's approximately the same amount on both sides. Now, because this is such a small and thin string, I'm actually going to do that whole process again so that it's nice and secure. So again, holding it with my left hand, my right hand is just going to come behind to make a loop, which then goes on top. Let's see if I can get it. It's hard to do slow, like riding a bike slow, and pulls tight. So what you're going to see is 2 loops here because I did it 2 times, coming over both my looped end as well as my spline. And the spline is still movable, but it's in there fairly tight. If I turn it, it's not going to fall out. That's what you want. All right, so that is how you tie your knot. Now, hopefully your end has not fallen through. If it has, you have to feed it back up, but mine is good. So I'm going to pull it in and feed it up through the hole in the tuning pin. Now, I'm going to take my end and going to tuck it under. Okay, so once again, I'm going to tuck it under the string because I want to pin this tail in. That's how it stays secure. At this point, I need to grab my tuning key and I'm going to put it on the correct pin. And if I just pull it tight and start tuning it, it's not going to have enough windings to really be secure. So what I like to do is use my finger to kind of pull it a little bit and give it a little extra slack so that I can then have a little bit more to wind. So I'm holding the tail with this hand so that the other one goes around it and pins it down. Okay, so I've got it kind of tight, but I have a problem. It's not in the right spot. So I have to move this so that I'm to the left of the tuning pin and in between my 2 pedal discs. We're on a lever harp in the correct position in relation to the lever. Now I can go back to turning it. You want to make sure that it's winding inward, not outward. So if you find that it's starting to wind over the string that you already wound, you need to go back, unwind it, and press it in a little bit as you're turning it so that it starts turning inward. Once it's on a good rotation of going inward, you won't have to worry about it. It'll continue to do that. So I've got it pretty set. It's still kind of loose, but it's really good set in there. At this point, I'm going to double check, look underneath, and adjust my knot to make sure that that spline is horizontal, not vertical, because I don't want it to touch the other strings and cause buzzing. So I'm going to adjust that spline to make sure that it is horizontal. Now I'm going to actually tune the string to the note right below it. So to this A, by plucking the A and then plucking my string, which is the B. So it's pretty low, but that's going to give me a good idea of where I'm going with it. I'm getting close. So there we go. It's matched to the string below it. It's continuing to stretch out and the knot is continuing to tighten, so it'll get looser. It'll get flatter, but you'll continue to tune it up. At this point, I want to make sure that I have enough rounds. So it's gone around about 3 times, which is just the way I like it. Definitely not less than 2 and not more than 5 or so. I like to be 3, maybe 4 up in these octaves times around, because that really holds it tight without getting too close to the neck. So this is perfect. If you find that yours got tuned up after only going around 1 time, you need to undo it, loosen it, pull it down, hold a little extra like I showed you, and then re-tighten it up so that you have a little bit more going around. So all I'm going to do now is take my wire cutters, get the flat side up close to the edge and trim it off as close as I can get it without accidentally cutting my string. You don't want to leave a lot of tail there because it'll get caught on things and it's not good. Now I have quite a bit of string left, so I can actually use this again. Sometimes I can use it 2 times, but this one might be a little tight. It depends on how big of a knot you're tying, how much room you have. But I can definitely use this one more time. So next time this breaks, I can restring it again. Or if it gets to be, let's say 2 years old and it hasn't broken, I can just go ahead and restring it so that it gets that nice bright sound again. So I'm going to put this back in the bag, the labeled bag, so that I know later what it is, and then I can use it. So all we need to do now is tune up the string the rest of the way. I'm going to use my phone tuner app and go ahead and tune it. I'm at a G. I want to get up to an A sharp so that when I activate my pedal, it'll be a B. And there it is. And it'll continue to get flat, so you'll have to tune it up multiple times. But my string is now good to go. So remember, always make sure that you tie your knot nice and secure. I like to double it with the spline. Make sure that your spline is horizontal, not vertical, and make sure that you have enough windings there at the top to keep it nice and secure. Best of luck to you and enjoy your harp.